What is asbestos? Asbestos are a group of minerals created naturally in the environment, found as large clumps of fibers. The word asbestos is derived from ancient Greece, meaning unquenchable or inextinguishable. Back in the Stone Age, the Greeks found this mineral and said it had magical properties because of its unique behavior. Asbestos are extremely durable and fire-resistant, which is why they are so desirable. Because of its fire-resistant qualities, these fibers were woven into clothing, and they were also used in cloth to wrap dead bodies so they could prevent deterioration. Everyday items soon contained asbestos, like in the wicks of candles, which allowed the candles to burn longer, and in clay pots that made them stronger than ever. Around 755 AD, King Charlemagne of France had special tablecloths made for the accidental fires that erupted during celebrations. The first crusade catapult used asbestos in their sling to throw flaming bags of pitch and tar. In the 1700s, the Italian government were the first to use asbestos fibers in banknotes. And in the 1850s, the Parisian Fire Brigade used jackets and helmets that were made of asbestos. Many asbestos mines began to open in Canada, South Africa, and then the United States. The Industrial Revolution is one of the most harmful time periods in our existence. Global asbestos production rose to over 30,000 tons per year. During asbestos production, women and children prepared and spinned the raw fibers while men worked in the mines. As time progressed, most household items contained asbestos. Although asbestos were efficient for household items, it was causing a lot of health problems for the world. The rapid growth of industrialization is what has caused asbestos to be used excessively. By 1975, the global production of asbestos rose to 4,213,000.
Before I start, I'm sorry for if I stutter. I can't help it. But today I'm going to be talking about the modern uses of asbestos, the risk, and the treatments. Asbestos is relatively modern, for it is a fiber that we've utilized in so many different ways in our industrialized world. Asbestos is a group of 6 minerals that occur naturally in the environment as bundles of fiber. Now, some of you may or may not have heard of the uses and effects of asbestos. Asbestos is found in things we see and use on a daily basis. The most desirable features of asbestos is their physical properties. It is resistant to heat, electrical, and chemical damage. Also great for sound absorption, tensile strength, and portability. Although the use of asbestos is slowly being limited, it is still found in roughly 3,000 consumer products today, including building materials. Home construction materials that were made with asbestos are cement wallboard, attic insulation, pipe insulation, asphalt floor tiles, vinyl floor tiles, duct tape flexible fabric connections, vinyl sheet flooring, flooring backing, carpeting, decorative plaster, textured paints/coatings, roof shingles, roofing felt, base flashing, adhesives, wallboards, and spackling compounds. Not only were materials used in creating houses, but in our appliances as well, such as broilers, deep fryers, popcorn poppers, ovens, slow cookers, toasters, washers and dryers, dishwashers, barbecue fire starters, iron rest, barbecue mitts, pot holders, and high temperature gaskets for stoves. Not only are they used in buildings, but also in vehicles that we drive today, the toys we buy for our children, the appliances you use in your homes. Asbestos is used in coatings, linings, layers, and combined with other materials to fit our needs. In the U.S., the Johns Company began mining asbestos for installation in 1858. It became a widespread material during the Industrial Revolution. In 1866, it was used as insulation in the U.S. and Canada. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the permissible exposure level of asbestos for work in all industries is 0.1 fibers per cc of air. This permissible exposure level is just for regulatory purposes only. It is still not a safe level of exposure because there is none. The 0.1 fibers per cc is still a significant risk. Even now, if products containing asbestos are disturbed, the tiny fibers are released into the air, and if inhaled, they can become trapped in the lungs of a human, which they can stay there for many years. And over time, the fibers can accumulate and lead to serious health problems such as mesothelioma, a rare cancer that affects the lining of the lungs, chest cavity, and abdomen, lung cancer, inflammatory conditions in your lungs. Our modern-day treatment for asbestos-related diseases are surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and targeted therapy. With targeted therapy, medicines and other substances are used to find and attack lung cancer cells without harming the normal cells.
As mentioned before, asbestos is made of bundles of mineral fibers, 6 to be exact. These minerals include the serpentine mineral, chrysotile, or white asbestos, and 5 amphiboal minerals, actinolite, amosite or brown asbestos, anthophyllite, chrysotolite, also known as blue asbestos, and tremolite. Chrysotile is known best for its curly shape, and it is comprised of multiple sheets of crystals. Actinolite is generally dark in color and can be found in multiple forms, such as brittle and compact or brittle and fibrous. Amosite is the second most hazardous type of asbestos. Amosite is characterized by long, thin fibers that are brittle and break off easily. Anthophyllite is a rare form of asbestos and has long, sharp, crystallized fibers that are relatively flexible. Chrysotolite is finely textured and its color ranges from dull gray to a very vibrant dark blue. Finally, the most hazardous form of asbestos is tremolite. Tremolite is comprised of sharp, needle-like fibers. Tremolite asbestos is often found in vermiculite, a natural mineral that expands when exposed to heat. Humans are primarily exposed through inhalation, dermal contact, or ingestion of asbestos fibers. However, inhalation is more common than ingestion in dermal contact. Dermal contact may act as a secondary exposure method. Usually, inhalation of fibers occurs from the air outdoors rather than indoors. Typically, asbestos fiber concentration is 10 times higher in urban areas than in rural areas because of the vast amount of buildings that use asbestos as insulation sources. In industrial areas, asbestos concentration can be 500 to 1,000 more than that of rural areas. Exposure can also occur through the contamination of water by asbestos minerals and asbestos-containing waste sites, eroding into water sources. Additionally, family members of construction workers or asbestos workers may be exposed when they come in contact with fibers carried home from an occupation. When a person takes in asbestos fibers via the mouth or nasal cavity, they travel down the esophagus and past the larynx. They then make their way through the trachea and bronchi of the lungs. Since asbestos fibers are not visible to the naked eye, odorless, and tasteless, they are virtually undetectable for humans. Bronchioles provide a passageway for the fibers to travel to the alveoli, where they begin to fester. Over time, the sharp needle-like fibers begin to attach to the walls of the alveoli, where they can remain dormant for decades. As they puncture the linings of the alveoli, macrophage cells attempt to remove the fibers. However, they are damaged in this process. The abundance of fibers then build up and kill these macrophage cells, resulting in scar tissue formation around the damaged area. As more asbestos enters the lungs, more scar tissue forms around the alveoli. Since scar tissue is stiffer than original tissue, this constricts the alveoli and reduces gas exchange throughout the body. As scar tissue spreads, the lung darkens and airflow is limited. Eventually, the lung is so damaged because of this amount of scar tissue that it stops functioning completely.
Asbestos minerals can be stored in the lungs for many years. It typically takes about 15 years of asbestos exposure to notice these health complications. The accumulation of asbestos fibers in the lungs can result in numerous health complications, one of them being asbestosis, an inflammatory condition caused by asbestos being trapped in the lungs for many years. It irritates the lungs and causes shortness of breath, coughing, and because it's a form of fibrosis, the scarring and thickening of connective tissue in the lungs also occurs, making it harder to breathe. Mesothelioma is another health risk pertaining to asbestos exposure. It's a rare cancer that affects the lining of the lungs, chest cavity, and abdomen, making it difficult for oxygen and carbon dioxide to pass through the body. Studies have suggested that there is some correlation between asbestos exposure and cancers involving the gastrointestinal tract, throat, kidney, brain, bladder, voice box, gallbladder, and other organs. But the evidence is inconclusive.
Yep, we treat lots of patients that have asbestosis, or they may have cancer, mesothelioma, which is caused from inhaling the asbestos fibers. We don't see as much of it now because we don't really use asbestos in like insulating furnaces like we used to. So a lot of those people that were exposed to asbestos, unfortunately, they have either died from asbestosis or natural causes. Truthfully, I think all asbestos should be banned because those individuals that it may still have less than 1%, but somebody who works on car brakes, because there's still asbestos in car brakes. So if you are a mechanic and over a lifetime are exposed to this, it's the accumulation of the asbestos that can lead to the disease. So it shouldn't be used anywhere. I don't know if we can find a permanent cure for asbestos because it ruins the alveoli, which are basically the microscopic units where gas exchange occurs. And you would really have to just transplant the entire lung. At this point in time, I don't see any possibility of just putting in new alveoli. Yeah, so a lot of people that have asbestos or asbestosis, they were working in the shipyards. So in Quincy, I also worked at Quincy Hospital for a while. We had a lot of people, mostly males, that have the asbestos exposure. Same thing with mechanics, pipe fitters that were using it to insulate. So that's usually where we saw the majority of it.
So those that are exposed to asbestos are now faced with the new challenge of living with pulmonary fibrosis. There has been no documented cure for pulmonary fibrosis, but doctors have developed ways that patients are able to live full and happy lives with this disease. This usually pertains to a change of lifestyle and diet. Treatment is usually meant for slow progression in improving the quality of a patient's life. For those that are diagnosed with asbestos exposure, early enough, go through short-term medication to counteract the common symptoms such as labored breathing, chest pain, and coughing. Patients are often given prescription inhalers, bronchodilators, supplemental oxygen, or antibiotics. Plain medications such as aspirin and Tylenol can be effective in reducing pain and inflammation caused by asbestos exposure. Doctors may prescribe stronger medication if they do not provide proper relief. When some patients are exposed for longer periods of time, doctors recommend putting patients through pulmonary rehabilitation that teaches them new breathing techniques and exercises as well as stress management to prevent any excessive stress to the lungs. There are other treatments such as using humidifiers, oxygen therapy, chest percussion, or postural drainage to relieve chest congestion and tightness when having difficulty breathing. A common and preferred type of chest percussion doctors use is thoracentesis as a palliative treatment as well as helping in diagnosing lung cancer or mesothelioma. Sometimes asbestos can cause pleural effusion, which is a collection of fluid between the chest wall and the lungs. The excessive fluid makes it hard to breathe, and thoracentesis is a common and least invasive way of withdrawing fluid buildup. It is also the most preferred among outpatients with asbestos. If the rehabilitation doesn't prove to be successful and symptoms have worsened, surgeries may be needed. In rare cases, doctors may recommend a lung transplant. Transplants are often associated with patients having lung cancer and are considered a last resort because although chances of survival are 80%, 1 year after the transplant, there is an increased risk of the body rejecting the transplant.
The best way to prevent asbestos exposure is to do your very best to avoid it completely. This means being aware of the locations where it is most likely to be found, such as ceilings, floor tiles, brake pads, roofing materials, emergency generators, insulation, or any talc-based products. If you or anyone you know has any suspicions about asbestos being in your home, then you should immediately contact OSU environmental health and safety workers so that they can help you take a sample of the item and verify that it contains asbestos fibers. You should never disturb or try to remove these fibers by yourself since they are easily inhaled. Your best bet is to contact a professional so that they can dispose of the contamination without putting you at risk for asbestos-related illnesses and without causing harm to the environment. Although asbestos will never really be banned worldwide, it is important for us to raise awareness of this issue. Tell your neighbors, tell your families, tell everyone you know about the harmful effects of asbestos and what you can do to prevent exposure. Because after all, you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it. Asbestos is indeed a hidden killer.